situation is also a culture of impunity, again blaming the victim, significant underreporting, judicial delays, and police insensitivity. The pillars of support of the current situation is beginning with a patriarchal society. Women are undervalued, devalued. Men are either seen, I was reading quite a bit about this, and men are either seen as protectors or aggressors. And if they're the aggressors, they tend to be married to the woman who he can then rape. And if he's seen as a protector, then he is protecting his family as a whole and not reporting the rape victim. So in either scenario that Indian men are seen in currently as it's reported, there's no room for a female to go to her husband, her father, her brother, and have sympathy. The government inaction is significant. There are a few reforms that they're considering right now. The Prime Minister has made a few statements about the protection of women needs to be a new priority in India. However, the Parliament is not taking up this issue as a priority. Gross police neglect, I've talked about that, as well as judicial delays. The stigma of victims versus survivor. This particular movement will choose to use the word survivor instead of victim, and that's kind of a debate in the sexual assault world anyway. Mm-hmm. And the media. It's important for the media to stay on our side, especially when reporting rapes. They have to stop saying what she was wearing, first of all. It doesn't matter what she was wearing. Things like that. We really need to build relationships with media so they don't unconsciously slip these victim-blaming scenarios in their reporting. This is our unifying statement. The women in Delhi, the women of India, and the women of the world stand united against rape and India's current culture of impunity that enables rape. And these are our 7 goals. Grand strategy. As I said, the Prime Minister and the Parliament must work together to pass proposed legislation to reform the current culture of impunity. Security personnel, whether military, paramilitary, or police, must not be immune from charges of rape. So again, if a woman reports to the police and she's raped in his custody, that's not immunity. That's not immune. Additionally, those who fail to report cases that are reported to them must be charged with complicity in the crime. Third, a specific task force must be established to include government, judiciary, police, survivor services, and rape survivors to end and prevent rapes in India. This has to be a multilateral, horizontal structure, without which we really can't get true reform. Rape cases must be registered quickly, confidentially, and safely. The current backlog of cases must be expedited, and the current cases must be tried within a year of the report. The suspect's identity must be made public once they're going to trial. Currently, if you were to Google this case, you'd only see hoods over their heads. And perhaps if the identities of these men are exposed during the trial, the shame would shift to them and their families instead of her and her family. Security cameras on public transportation. This seems like a very basic safety step, and I've not been on public transportation in India, so I don't know if there are cameras, but presumably there are not, because these incidents are happening with witnesses and they're still contested. So perhaps we can get some cameras.
But security cameras, I mean, is it because most of these cases happen at night in the public transportation, or what?
Public transportation and immediately off.
Okay.
So it's around the station. So
yes.
It will work.
Yes.
Okay.
But that's our last priority.
Okay.
That's something that we can negotiate away. That's a concession that we're willing to make. This is kind of our list from top to bottom of what we really want. Our unifying symbol is the whistle, as I talked about this morning. We have 3 clear phases. The first phase is yesterday until 3 months from now. We have to stand strong in our actions and in our mission during the duration of Jamini's trial. Jamini is her pseudonym, I suppose. It means lightning, and it's also a Bollywood star. Her identity is not been released, even though she had passed. So the second phase is the task force to reform the culture of impunity. That also starts today, and it continues for 18 months. The administration and logistics. The first is human resources. As I said this morning, we'll really use the existing activism networks, especially the nonviolent ones. We do need to have a strong press statement to separate our actions and the nonviolent actions from the increasing violent actions. We also would like to see a specific movement for men and boys. That's not within our capacity, and because the stigma is so strong, we don't actually think that it should be the same movement that addresses both women and men. We think it should be two separate, perhaps, men leading a movement for men or taking care of the women. The material resources are slim, mostly, and the human resources are also identified in the task force. The material resources right now is just limited to whistles, and then we'll see where that takes us and what else we'll need. But right now we're really motivating people and organizing people. The third-party relationships, I think that this can be related to the anti-honor murder movement. Is everyone familiar with honor murders? It's growing quite common in diaspora communities where there are arranged and forced marriages, and the girl is killed either because she's had premarital sex, she's been raped, or she refuses to marry the boy or man that she's arranged to marry. So there's quite a successful anti-honor murder movement, and something that they've come up with is this ingenious tool. In the UK, they have a special task force for honor murder victims. And what they do, especially if she's traveling through a security checkpoint at an airport, at a train station, if a woman calls in to the task force and says, I'm Pakistani, my family's taking me back to Pakistan, I don't want to leave London, what do I do? They're making me marry my cousin tomorrow, I don't know what to do. What does every woman have access to? A kitchen. What does every kitchen have? A spoon. So they say, all right, right now, go into the kitchen, put a spoon in your knickers. When you get to the airport, this task force knows, and TSA know, that if a woman has a spoon in her underwear, it's like a secret code, that she's the victim of essentially human trafficking, but of honor murders, arranged marriages, which could potentially lead to an honor murder. So there are these ingenious movements already happening. I think this is brilliant. And so we don't need to create these...
Kind of the secret code, yes.
Exactly. They're already out there. So we can work with them. They should work with us. These women have a lot in common. So that's really where I see our third-party relationships. Communication and coordination, we already have the numbers, as you can see in the streets of India. Where do, those advertisements that we often see on the back of doors in public restaurants? We should start advertising our campaign in women's rooms and the men's campaign in women's public bathrooms. As well as public transportation, social media, we should develop frequently asked questions. For example, why are we using survivor instead of victims? We can start talking about that. And it's important for us at this point to maintain a horizontal structure, especially on that task force. If anybody's vertical, it should be the survivor. But at this point, we realize that probably wouldn't happen. So 2 actions. The first is the whistle campaign. And I added that escalation that we talked about this morning. The second is Take Back the Bus, modeled after the Take Back the Night movement here in the States. Are people familiar with that? After, I can't remember when it started, but there was a series of young women who were kidnapped and raped and sexually assaulted in, I can't remember, maybe Chicago. And there's an annual Take Back the Night movement that people go out into the streets in different downtown areas and say, we're safe, we're okay. So take back the bus. The strategy is to spray paint either the names or the faces or of either survivors or suspects on the side of the bus. And we'll choose if it's suspects or survivors based on polling. Would somebody get onto a bus and see the faces of the 6 men that raped the woman that was killed and be inspired to do something? Or would they be more likely to be inspired to do something if they see her face? I'm not sure what that would be. So the resources are, of course, the polling, The spray paint 10 students every 2 weeks, presuming that the buses will be cleaned in between our graffiti.
Not in India.
Not in the, okay.
Will be cleaned every 6 weeks.
Then 10 students every 6
Sure, in Serbia they don't get cleaned.
And you would need more than 10.
That's what we
Okay.
want people, but they get cleaned.
Okay. So let's say 1,000 students every 6 weeks. And this can also be developed to include ongoing reform debates, pass such and such a bill, or remove the police commissioner, or whatever the current campaign messaging is. We'll keep using this. And it's important to just take back these buses to make sure that they're safe spaces. Okay.
Right. We are South Africans for freedom of expression, and our symbol is the shower. And this is really what sparked our movement. That one we discussed earlier today, where the cartoonist of Hero, a massive lawsuit for doing his cartoons, and that picture over there by an artist called Brett Murray. And it's called The Spear of the Nation. And that was shown in the Goodman Gallery against huge pressure from the government, impinged on the dignity of the state president. And activists from the ANC burst in, threw paint on it, and then charged up. The gallery kept on displaying it. The German collector who bought it said, "Don't clean it up." It's all part of the story now. I want to exactly as it is. But again, until the gallery removed it, enormous pressure from the government to take it down with threats of lawsuits. Okay, so really 14 years after a new constitution enshrined the right of every citizen to freely express him or herself, President Jacob Zuma and the ANC slowly started instituting formal and informal measures that outlaw criticism of the government and its leaders. Individuals and groups are affected. In this case, we're talking about individuals, people like Zafiro and Brett Murray. I'm not dealing with a particular issue in this presentation, but South Africa is also going through, the government has introduced something called the Protection of Information Act, which basically any governmental body, no matter how large or how small, can classify something, anything, any information as secret. And therefore you can't publish it. And there are 25 years in jail if you classify anything that's secret. Well, which is serious shit, really serious. It basically puts a stop to any kind of whistleblowing or any kind of expose of corruption or anything. Public interest is irrelevant. And that's the big thing. Public it's yeah. So I'll say, what is safe? What do we want? We demand that President Jacob Zuma drops his ridiculous lawsuit against Jonathan Zafiro and Brett Murray. It's a pretty small campaign. It's not big and overreaching, but we are aiming for a small victory over here. Well, who is safe? Safe are artists, they're the media, they're students, small business communities are involved, and civil society groups under Sangoko, which is the South African NGO coalition, and international bodies such as Open Society. Excuse my PowerPoint jumps around a bit, but in terms of what we want each of these groups to do is we want them to do what these groups are good at. Mm-hmm. Artists, or what do artists do? They create art. So we want our artists to put together public displays of criticism for the government, to create amazing pieces of art that will not only inspire people, but actually also generate revenue for people who we auction off. Media, what do we want them to do? We want them to publicize. That's what the media does. They get the word out. It's absolutely, you ask the question, whose interest is this? Artists, they want freedom of expression. Media, well, they definitely want freedom of expression. Students, they always want freedom of expression, but no problem with these guys. Small business owners, it's also very important for them.
So why them? That was my question.
This is where the South African dynamic comes into play. We're talking about big business. they will most likely align with what the government wants, because that's the government fees and big government contracts and all that sort of thing. Small business owners are much more interested in a level playing field, and when contracts and tenders are given to large companies, or when contracts and tenders are not transparent, they want the chance to say, hey, hang on a second, that wasn't transparent. It was unfair. You can't just be handing business over to your cronies, which really cronies is right outside. So we think these guys are going to be quite important for us. And then, of course, civil society groups are traditionally, particularly in South Africa, aligned with issues of freedom of expression. When do we want to do this? Well, 3 months before the ANC elections, which are in December, and running through the national election in April.
Good timing.
Execution. Okay, August to October, letters to the editor in newspapers and online publications criticizing the government. Really, really calling Zuma out on the things that he's done bad. Really, really going. We feel that the media will want to publish this. This is ramped up into plastering every major city in town and South Africa in shower heads, car areas, lampposts, posters, and stickers on all the election campaigns. Every election campaign is a politician smiling like that, shower on his head, bang. Every single election campaign person in South Africa should have a shower on somewhere. Public art shows. Famous artists creating critical pieces in public spaces, in front of courts, in front of the parliament, big with chalk. Doing pieces to raise money for campaigns, and limited editions of hero pieces. We also then want to go really ramp up demonstrations outside Parliament, the Constitutional Court, and the law courts. Demonstrators, what we call doing the Zuma. Now, this fellow over here is Julius Malema. He's actually a fairly nefarious character, ex-head of the ANC Youth League. He got kicked out of the ANC. He was a big ally of Zuma for a long time, and then he fell foul of Zuma. I'm not saying to use him as a spokesman. I actually wouldn't advise using him as a spokesman. Otherwise, I found this picture that was just too much for him. He's doing that. So we're excited to get a little thin on the ground. Admin and logistics. We're going to manufacture shower heads, stickers, all the collateral that has to be made. That stuff has to be distributed. Now, this is where our small business partners are coming into play. So what they can make stuff and they can distribute it. People on garage forecourts, petrol station forecourts, corner shops. Every one of these places can carry a little aerial or a sticker or something like that. Media liaison, publishing letters and campaign publicity. That's really important to make sure that the media are all working in a coordinated fashion. And then, of course, mobilization of artists and demonstrators. I thought the structure of the organization should be quite similar to ARCOR, because you're dealing with lots of different groups. So I think it makes sense to have a key liaison for each major group that you have to deal with. And then you have a branch going off that really focuses on training for students, because God bless the students in South Africa don't traditionally demonstrate in the most peaceful way. These days, it quite easily starts into chucking rocks at police and all that sort of thing. Very exciting. So, but really, that is what looks like.
Good.
I tried to do the plan format for my Yemen example this morning. And part of what I realized in going through this is that you have to really have a campaign issue before you do this. So I don't know how well it fits, but I'll try. So the situation, as I pretty much went over this morning, basically this journalist, Shaikh, he had covered since 2009 a lot of the counterterrorism things that the covert war basically the U.S. has been waging in Yemen. He was arrested once in December of 2009 and then released, and then arrested again, and then President Saleh decided to release him in February of 2011 Obama called to express his concern about him meeting with Al-Qaeda individuals, which he had been doing for reporting, and then Saleh withheld the pardon. So he still remains in prison. So basically, in thinking of the things not to forget, I think it's important to do education around the issue, even with journalists who would be involved in the actions. The international community is really heavy-handed in Yemen because they have so much. I mean, the U.S. alone gives over $40 million, which is a huge amount of money. So understanding that kind of relationship, the major pillars are media, mainly U.S. media, but also media in Yemen. Military, specifically the U.S. military, that has been overclassifying these kind of documents and information, including the CIA. International community more broadly, because this is just one example of journalists that have been targeted to make sure that U.S. actions are actually not covered. And then the NGO community, which has also been trying to make this a known issue, although not very successfully. And then the Yemeni population, which originally was responsible for pushing Saleh to actually pardon him before the international community stepped in. So it would basically be a collective of specifically, ideally, White House White House correspondents that would be pushing for this campaign. Since they're already a very close-knit group of people, and they have direct interaction with both the main press secretary and Obama on a daily basis, it would just seeing the cartoon pins would make it a known statement, even though it's not supposed a political space for journalists. It could still cause some kind of reaction from the administration. So ideally, it would force either the Obama administration and/or someone within his press corps to respond to that, and then they wouldn't be able to have that kind of conversation around this journalist without talking about the horrible human rights abuses and killing many civilians by the attack on al-Majala. So behind this is encouraging the journalists to stand together, as in the fact that basically this journalist was arrested for just doing his job, and so any kind of sensitivity or sensitive subjects that are covered would be in the interest of other journalists to join together to bring attention to this case, and then also kind of support their journalist colleague. And then also trying to target the military and state in their interest of actually strengthening the U.S. military if there was more transparency and accountability within international standards, since none of this meets international standards. And then it would be executed by working with international organizations that are also locally involved in this, including Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, Reporters Without Borders, and Committee to Protect Journalists. So after a week of action of wearing the pins, they would do a press conference, which would be led by the Committee to Protect Journalists, since it's a very political statement that journalists individually probably would not do. And then, so logistically, this would include creating the cartoon pins, ideally from having Kamil Shara donating his cartoon, because it's an ideal scenario, and mobilizing the media for support, starting with media organizations that have covered this, because there are very few and far between. Other than Democracy Now! And The Guardian, there are only small independent media sources that have covered it, that I know of at least. So working with them to mobilize their broader communities. And then in coordinating communication would be, if they were willing to participate, pretty easy, since the White House correspondents are already working together on a daily basis, and they have to be pretty well established even to get into those ranks. And then that's it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
In the Clean Hall program, the situation is what's going on, obviously, with the stop and frisk. Some of the facts are that it's happening in a lot of buildings in Bronx neighborhoods that are predominantly Black and Latino neighborhoods. And in Manhattan, there are 4,000 buildings that are part of this program. And there's some statistics. The Black population in New York City is 3.5 million people. Most highest concentration of Black population in this entire country. Hispanic population is 3 million.
What we're doing like campaign and distribution of pamphlets and raising awareness to go to the communities, different communities, and talking to them and door to door, like talking one person to one person, and then protesting non-violently. When we're going to do is March 2013, 1 month after. So we're slowly starting our, preparing our campaign. And how we're going to do it is like we're going to stick posters outside the schools or religious center or supermarkets or subway stations or hospitals. And why we're doing this, it's something that you and lots of people we share, especially those communities. They are like people who are victims, and we also want to go to the like for example Union Square or Times Square, like show their broom, show our local broom, and try to like make them aware of what's happening.
So she was just talking about our logo. I'll show it to you really quick. It's just it didn't show up on here. So basically, it's just a broom.
A broom.
And why? Because A, it's called the Clean Hall program, but also when police go in and try to do these like mass, we're going to knock out crime and drugs, they call it sweep. So kind of saying like we're going to sweep, but we're going to sweep the minority populations. Phase 1, we'll do community meetings where we'll just get the staff involved, and we'll have proxies in all 5 boroughs. We'll task as many people as possible with jobs at this point to do the horizontal, just the spread of responsibility. Research, inform, and train. We've got facts and pamphlets, and then we're going to organize what we call Loiter Fest, which is going to be the second phase, where, like what I was saying this morning, people will stand inside of these buildings, invite their friends and family, have a good time, play some music. They'll all have their pockets pulled inside out, just to show, like, okay, you can search me all you want, I've got nothing in my pockets, just displaying that. And then maybe lining up people who have been victims of it. And obviously we can't get every single person that's ever been a victim, but in ratios of the way that they arrest people. Line them up like around parks in each of the boroughs. Invite media, and then phase 3 will be a rally in front of the courthouse there's a trial in March, so that will be the final event. We'll get third-party support from the New York Civil Liberties Union, Latino Justice, and Bronx Defenders.
And then we're going to organize meetings, and then we're going to recruit volunteers. And through social media, we're going to use the text messages and Facebook groups and Twitter, YouTube. And then, for example, newsfeed, we're going to align with different organizations who have same values like us. And we'll also like meeting with the senators and the representative of the House, and we'll talk personally. Yeah. And then we'll also try to gain support from the media as the pillar, and then like send articles that we write to them, and then like publish them.
So the final rally will just be essentially all the people that we've mobilized throughout these last 2 months. And an important part of the process that I forgot is in sometime in phase 2, when we do this Loiter Fest, we're going to get the support of a lot of police officers as well, because I think that's our most important pillar. And that's it. And then here's our fact sheet with the myths that people like to say, like, well, crime has dropped, but calling out really the statistics to prove that it's not. because of.
Is it really the truth that it
hospitals.
fell down in other cities by 40-50%?
Yeah, in cities that don't have this program, they've lowered their crime.
Okay. Any questions?
It would
Good.
never happen in Chicago. It's too big of a move there.
Thank you.
So the background situation is women are not allowed to drive in Saudi Arabia. They need to be driven by male relatives or hired drivers to ferry around, to ferry themselves and their children around. The country's powerful religious body has publicized an academic study which claims allowing women to drive would lead to higher rates of divorce, prostitution, and drug abuse. Of course, that's God knows.
So logical.
So last year, about 100 women took part in a demonstration, which is huge for Saudi Arabia. 100 women demonstration, both two words, which are not heard a lot. There are organizations that are trying to get women behind the wheel. One of them is Women to Drive, the number 2, and the other is called I Will Drive My Own Car. Women who break the law are not caught driving, face arrest or flogging. Women are still not allowed to vote in the country, so this is how oppressive the country is.
They promised that they will get a vote in local elections in 2 years, maybe. That's grand victory.
Besides the government, I think, it's also changing the minds of the husbands and the brothers and the fathers. I think it's just all men. Even if the government relents, I can't imagine the men in their lives allowing the women to drive and be like, yeah, honey, go get a gallon of milk. I can't see that.
So for the mission statement, we'll try to mobilize individuals and attract there's husbands, progressive, modern citizens. We'll try to push for change and reforms and eventually allow women to exercise equal rights, starting with the freedom to drive in Saudi Arabia. And for our events, we definitely will notify the king about it, send out recommendations.
We had a big discussion on whether to, notify the king or not, and her point was
That they're not going to allow us. I don't know. If we should just do our events once you hear what we plan. We should just do it as is without having to notify anybody, because if we do, they'll try to prevent us from doing it, because it's just a society with the mentality that we have.
And my point of view is you cannot do anything in that country without a sanction from the king. And I think he likes to portray himself as a liberal progressive.
So you're leaving him a door, like a
Right.
boardwalk.
And I think he'll be like, look how open-minded I am. Of course you can, protest. So that was a big. We decided just to include the king because it wouldn't last more
So
than 10
you'll
seconds.
offer him a path of accommodation.
Right, saying this is what we're going to do. Is that okay with you? That's fantastic. You're such a great leader. Fantastic. This is great.
What if he says no?
He would say no.
See, I don't think he'd say no because he is known as very liberal, open-minded, fatherly. As long as they're asking for it, he doesn't have to give it to them.
But if he
least allow
does,
them
do
to
you
ask
still
for
go
it.
ahead? If he does say no, do you still go ahead?
To be discussed. I'm not sure. I'm assuming he would give it. So the execution, it's organize a day of protest. Now again, it's Saudi Arabia. It's nothing big. It's nothing militant. It's nothing people in the streets. Cannot do that in that country. So it's to organize a day of protest. It's in May. It's to coincide with the day in 2011 in which Manal al-Sharif, the 33-year-old woman, divorced mother, posted a video of herself driving on YouTube. She has since been fired from her state job. Her family has left, and she's gotten death threats. So that's where that got her. So we are asking women to flood the local Department of Motor Vehicles and apply for a driver's license. That's all they have to do. Just go apply for a driver's license. Their request will no doubt be denied, but it will show solidarity and support for the movement. It will also create a petition of sorts. The women will be wearing buttons showing, this is where your imagination comes in, the buttons showing a picture of a camel with a wheel attached to its hump. The camels are identifiable symbol in the country. The slogan will read, "What drives you?" Numbers show, and also let it be known and, hand out information, decimate that,
Just put out statistics showing that the claim where this the Shura Council said that if women do start drive, there'll be higher rates of divorce, prostitution, drug abuse. Is just nonsense. We'll just show the statistics so people would understand. It's just, he's just blah blah.
Like women drive in other Muslim countries and now running around with a pole attached to them.
And then another idea for this, we can, well, the organizers can also just, to support this women putting the applications for driver's license, what people who already drive, men, can do, they can pass by every local motor vehicle, well, Department of Motor Vehicles, and just honk in support. So this women would feel the support of this other guys. As for the administration and logistics, we said that the group will avoid having a physical office and instead will conduct meetings at different coffee shops or women's homes.
Mm-hmm.
The focus would be on Riyadh, the capital city. As for the task, each volunteer will have different tasks, either the PR campaign or communicate with the local population, planning, management, ordering these buttons, training sessions, and trying to persuade people to change their behavior, their mentality, to see that women behind the wheel is not that scary.
So there are no costs really associated with this action, just the buttons.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to rely on word of mouth. Women talking to women over coffee at home. I mean, they're housewives, so they're going to talk.
And there are no media open to that anyhow. So.
We also talked about that. I mean, if the king does sanction it, then maybe he would let us run commercials on state-run media. We're not counting on it.
Do they have like kind of a supreme council of imams or
Sure.
something? They do.
They do.
So king might actually say, I mean, what usually happens in that area is that always the
Ahmadiyya
presidents
plays the
and
good
the
guy,
king
and
say yes, and then
Khamenei plays
these
the bad
religious councils actually deny.
Well, in Iran, it would be Ahmadinejad
right.
being a good guy.
Yeah,
and then,
because
Khamenei being
Ahmadinejad
a bad
actually
guy.
approved women to go to the football games, to the football matches, and then imams
He stand openly for
you
them
know,
going to football games.
said no, and that has been overruled then. And Ahmadinejad said, like, I have no problems with it. If, the Supreme Council agrees, that's it. But Supreme Council, of course, said no.
But on that point, then they would be right informing the king, because even if they want to play this game, he can still get away with
Now,
it.
with the kings, it's a different situation because the kings have actually accommodated all over the Middle East. And whenever they saw the problems, they were trying to accommodate.
And even in Saudi Arabia, he promised women a vote in 2015 on the local elections, which is a little bit, but it's big because they haven't been voted ever.
And they're okay talking about it. It's the execution that they have a problem with. But they're like, yeah, we'll talk about it, sure.
I like
Like
the idea
asking
of flooding
parents.
the driver's centres with application forms. You can just do that consistently all the time and just, shut these places down because they don't. If they get an application in the mail, you don't put your own name and address on it. You just put some nonsense on there. They don't know what they've got to open every single envelope. They don't know what's legitimate and what's not legitimate. Or if it's online, even better. Just, they just shut that sucker down.
Well, I think we covered it. We decided that there's going to be 3-month preparation before the events. We'll advertise it on state television. There's no cost to it for us. And then with the whole movement being just women and then being in the Islamic State, it's all peaceful, so there won't be violent outbreaks or nothing. So no cost associated.
The cost benefit.
Yeah, the cost benefit is.
You see, that's interesting. I mean, I don't know if you realize in all of these, plan formats, exercises that you guys did, there is not so many costs associated with it, don't you think? Like the budgets, like the money needed for it, it's nothing.
And you
And-
specifically meaning too, where you have a physical requisite like the shower one thing, and the wristlet thing. I will tell you. I mean, the most happy people in Serbian demonstration 1996, 1997 were actually people who were selling these wristlets. When you create a culture of whistling, then the people start just selling whistles. It'll be everywhere. you don't need to fund the whistles like campaign, because it's not. I mean, it's something which costs like.
There's going to be a local entrepreneur who's going to be selling the whistles.
Anybody will buy it from the petrol station. You need to provide people with these. And also application for driving license probably doesn't cost a fortune. I mean, it's something available to them.
They don't pay for anything in that country, so I can't imagine paying for
Oh yes,
it.
everything is subsidized. Yes, probably. It costs little or nothing. Makes sense.
Okay, well, thank you guys.
Bravo.
I think these were actually very good. And so, as this was pretty much everything we used to have for you in these last 5 days, I'm sorry that today we kept you for so long. But we had a. Did we work today because we had a holiday on Monday, or
Yes,
because
Martin Luther
okay,
King
cool.
is to be blamed for this. So.
Okay.
Otherwise, we start
So
on
many ways.
In so many ways.
Well, before.
But let's just go and wrap up a bit.
Summarize.
Let's summarize actually what we spoke about. Okay, so I don't know if you remember, but from the beginning of the course, we kind of tried to really remove some misconceptions about nonviolent struggle. We tried to actually frame it for you to think in a bit different form than just removing the guy on the top, which would say like monolithic structures do not exist, are extremely rare. We actually asked you to focus on the political system as pluralistic. We spoke about the sources of power, explained that actually the government and dictatorships rely a lot on the institutions, individuals, through which through which the power has been exercised. We said those are the pillars. Worked on that and described how actually you could deal with the pillars and identify it and measure it and try to forecast it. We spoke about methods and mechanisms, obedience. Mentioned 3 principles of the nonviolent struggle: unity, planning, nonviolent discipline. This is, I would say, the most important thing for you to remember. Then the messages, the messengers, audiences. We spoke about the message development. Remember that we have gone into the negotiations. I explained to you on what are the types of the negotiators. We've kind of seen the differences between the political negotiations and business negotiations. Discussed the scenario of coalitions and third parties. I went you through all the Serbian experience of actually coalition building, and we spoke about get out the vote campaigns. Dilemma actions. As you know, everything that you focus on, those should be dilemma actions. We as well said that you should always think in terms of the strategy, in terms of your tactics, on which battles to pick up. The bread and butter issues are actually much bigger than you ever believe. You've seen a couple of examples as well from India and South Africa that some of the things that you never thought about could actually bring the whole governments down. And those should be done in a way that you pretty much think of your activists in terms of the enthusiasm, on how to bring enthusiasm, how to actually make them feel more safer. Sergio, I guess, mentioned the fear briefly and about the issues about the fear and why is it good to be afraid and what actually needs to be done in order for the fear to be diminished. You did brilliant, brilliantly in terms of dilemma actions. I'm very satisfied actually. And then all in all, we finalized with something that's a campaign work. Now, as I'm going to repeat once again, do not believe in marches and rallies as the only form of the nonviolent struggle. I tried to explain to you why do you need to have those only at the end, why do you need to work on the numbers. I'm very satisfied because none of you actually mentioned marches and rallies in the first place, and I bet this would be very different if I would just ask you to do this exercise, at the day 1 of our class. And we kind of thought about these strategic insight concepts on, that you need to pick up the moments, and that's actually what I like with your presentation, that you need to know when to pick up the momentum and when to proclaim the victory, and that's probably the most important issue. Whatever you do, proclaim the victory. However you feel, that things are going to move, you just need to proclaim the victory, and you just need to be able to sustain it in a way to do the post-production effects and to just capitalize on that one. That's extremely important. You are about to build the series of the successes, and any time that you show up your activists in open, you need to build an image of numbers growing, of more and more people coming and supporting you. You just want to build like positive, successful track record. That's what makes people being willing to join you. And that's pretty much it. I guess you're now experts in nonviolent struggle, and we will just leave you with that.
They will be great. I would like to add a few things. First of all, this is Marvel's experience. This is the first time that we're teaching at NYU, and the first time we're teaching in graduate school. So both, it may have been challenging for you, but it was also challenging for us. The fact that you haven't noticed it because the students are master of deception. We look like very confident and stuff like that, but basically it was also challenge for us and a great experience because you right people and you are investing your time and money into something you think it can be useful. Basically, you got the instruction for the final paper. Now I will one more logistical thing. You haven't all got this because some of you don't have computers, no? And then you have this Apple technology that throw this through the window. Can we make anybody in charge of doing the Dropbox on this for the rest of the students? So we make sure everybody has a PowerPoint. You can share this among yourself, yes? So what I've done, I gave all the PowerPoint are there, even those whom we haven't used. And branding movie is there in case you want to show it to somebody. Nice thing. Al Jazeera, so whatever you want to do with it, you're free to do it. So it's easier for us. Second thing, I would like to repeat a few things. First of all, we would be happy in any of your work or research, whether this work is in field in Macedonia, whether this work is in Germany, whether this work is in labor unions, whether this work is in Tibet, whether this work is in female rights, whether this work is in Shower Zuma in South Africa. We would be really glad to help. So please do follow up with us. If you have an idea or you do something you think you can help, just mail us. We respond to emails. Basically. And second thing, I would like just to repeat a few things. How much time do you need to do the final paper? I don't use it for 2 or 3 days, and
What's the rule? What's prerequisite of the school? I have an idea.
I have no idea because Galeotti was on leave, so I will probably learn about that Tuesday. We have a website called www.canvaspedia.org, and it's not the best website in the world, but it has a lot of resources. We have a Facebook page which is called Canvas People Power. You can like it if you want, because you have like 2 or 3 updates a day. About 12,500 followers.
Look, if you guys are if anybody's coming to our region, just let us know.
And yes, this is
we have plenty of room.
If you're around, we will probably get agreement with. We had initial talks, and there's a group from NYU coming this summer, and we also thought the issue of interns. So basically, what we get from us, we have 3 American interns as we speak in our office. Basically, it works as the faculty pays for the trip and cheap accommodation, which we find for these guys in Belgrade. So if you at any point, if you're at any point interested in this, let's talk about it. We haven't got the agreement yet with NYU, but they seem to be very interesting. So I assume for next year, it's going to be available. And if you meet other students, say that they need to avoid this class. It's corridor. It's like say we should have bombed you guys to the dinner. They're like cockroaches. If 2 of us survive, that's already too many. Reproduce and get around everywhere.
Anyway, so it has been a pleasure. If any questions, please feel, throughout your paperwork, just if you have any questions, just, feel free to send an email or whatever. And,
I have a quick question.
yeah.
Of course.
So, I want to focus on the civil rights thing. Do I have to do the whole thing, or can I just pick one specific thing, like the freedom riders I was wanting to do? Or do you want to do the entire civil rights movement?
You need to go through the entire process, but from perspective of one stakeholder, if you want.
So what we need basically in this is that you understand now when you go to final papers. The reason I normally don't mail them at the beginning is because it can make things confusing. But now when you go through the complete process, you understand what it says. Like we want to look at the background and we want to look at the battlefield. Basically, what you want in the first part of the story is what is this battlefield? This is about these guys want this and these guys want that. So this is what this conflict is all about. And then you look from the point of strategy, this, step-by-step thing, is this accommodating the king of Saudi Arabia, or is this about turning down the guy who's stealing the elections, or, preventing the fourth transition in North Korea from Kim Jong this to Kim Jong that in 4 generations. So what is the strategy of the movement? And then on the other side, what is the strategy of the government? Saudi's strategy is obviously bail everybody out. This is like 1 million people, we have all this goddamn more revenue, we just give everybody money. So they keep safe. Well, guess what? You can't apply this, in other situations. Also, this great dictator's handbook gives you this idea that the real difference between dictatorship and democracy is the size of the coalition. In democracy, you need to keep many members of the coalition happy because they need to re-elect you. In dictatorship, it's just the guy at the top and a bunch of his cronies. So, so what's the vulnerability and stuff like that? And then the slogan says, what are the tactics implied, basically, what are the most successful tactics? And what went good and what went wrong? I would be happy seeing papers on countries like Belarus, Zimbabwe, or China. I'm happy to talk about it.
Yes, you don't need to write about successful cases. You can speak. You can pick up the failures and attempts.
Failures win as well. So it's like it's not necessarily need to be a victorious struggle of movement X. It can be a failed struggle of movement X.
Go ahead.
Sorry, of course.
I want to ask, do you see non-violent, like self-immolation process as a non-violent, like non-violent or violent?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
Self-immolation.
Okay.
Basically, two of us see it as violent, but put it in the context of the Tibetan movement. I was far more pissed off when I seen Tibetan destroying Chinese stores in Lhasa.
What?
2008. It's like when there was this violence against ethnic violence between Tibetans and Chinese, burning the stores because they belong to Chinese people. That was after the 2008.
Actually, I did some research on that.
Yes.
And since you can differentiate who's Tibetan and who's Chinese, so there's a long article on that. And it seems like from one of the UK organizations who did a research on that, and there were there were a lot of Chinese army, and they were given the Mongols.
So they were actually agent provocateurs kind of.
They changed some of the, and they're like deep perception that some of them may be Chinese side. So
But you can.
I'm not saying it's completely not Tibetan, but there are stories it's still arguable whether it's true or not.
Look, you can write from about it even from perspective of the three key principles we speak about, out of which one is nonviolent discipline, and so that's totally okay. It's not necessarily that you can discuss the case if it was not in particularly fully nonviolent. So we can debate on why it went differently and in the wrong direction. So it's okay.
You can completely talk case study like Syria, which started as a nonviolent conflict and ended up as a civil war as well. So it's okay for us. It doesn't necessarily need to be a strictly nonviolent conflict, which strictly state nonviolent.
Go use as a reference. You can use Erika Chenoweth and Maria Stefan's book.
And that's definitely this.
Erika Chenoweth.
Yes, sorry, this was the first. I keep mentioning this. Is why civil resistance works. This is where we pull this lovely figures of the efficiency of violent and nonviolent struggle. It is Maria Stefan and Erica Chandler has been published in 2008. The large portion is downloadable for free in PDF. I mean, these things, 26% of efficiency for violent struggles.
So you can use that as a reference because they basically kind of compared the models like violent and non-violent conflicts, and they kind of did about stats and results of those. So that's a good resource if you want to talk about that.
It's a great study. It also shows that one of the biggest misconceptions is that, you know, like,
Okay.
you're facing one.
What else? We don't want to keep you any longer, guys.
Any other questions? No.
Cool.
So I'm reading.
I definitely think that we all learn like the most that we were talking about before. We never usually learn practical skills. We learn practical and now we actually have things we can use. So
We are really happy to feel that you haven't lost Friday in your life. So, sorry if we disappointed you with the very low level of footnotes we offer. But we warned you at the very beginning, if you are into footnotes, we are not your guy.
Yeah, I think that's what
If
we
you
all
are
say.
into learning something practical, then we are probably your guy.